Aloha and welcome to Week 6 of CM400C. As mentioned, the rest of the semester you will be moving through the mobile design process by playing the role of the client and the designer. Last week, we learned about designing for clients, developing a workflow, budget, and deliverables. This week, we're going to put our designer hats back on and focus on learning more about the iterative process, which leads us to goal revision and determining a target user for our apps. Your textbook, Interactive Design, has some great articles that help you to get to know your users. Please take the time to read all the assigned readings. As we learned in week 1, you want to create an app that solves a problem that you or your client has. So let's review. We're going to solve a problem. Your app should solve a problem for your users. This means it makes their lives easier. You want to captivate your user at every opportunity. And you most certainly want to connect your user with your app and to a community of users. Getting to the goal of your app is an exciting process. At this stage in your mobile design process, you haven't committed too much. By midweek, for assignment number 4, you've answered a few questions on the app context, persona, and concept and planning. If you haven't done so yet, start your wall o sticky notes. As your progress through the mobile design process takes place, your sticky notes will be organized in groups, and you will start eliminating things that don't quite meet your app goals. It may be hard to distinguish between functions and features. In your textbook, Interactive Design, on page 46, it says that functionality is what your design will do, and features are how you will do it. Let's look at the iPhone's phone app. The main function of this app is the ability to make a phone call. The features of this app include the numeric keypad to make the call possible. Please note here that each numeric key on this phone is made up of the UI element button, not a circle. I want to take a moment here to talk about design iteration from a much older design of the phone app. Remember that mobile app design is a very iterative process, and changes are based on screen size, design trends, from lighter to darker palettes. As a designer, it's good to be open and respond to the changes in the design landscape. By now, you may feel more comfortable with identifying target users for the Local IA app, or even for your own app idea. Because the design process is iterative, which means it requires designers and developers to repeat steps to narrow down the focus of the app and the design, you will run through a set of questions that will help you to narrow down your target audience as well. As you change your goals, your functions and features change, and inevitably, your users change too. So, techniques to find your target user. You want to observe users in different situations. You want to find out who they are. So, you want to ask questions. You can even ask fellow students, ask your friends, ask your family. You want to conduct an electronic survey, and or you can conduct focus groups. After you've done your initial sticky note brainstorm, it might be a good time to observe users in different situations. What this means is wherever you've determined that users will use your app, let's say for example the app you're designing is to borrow books at UH West Oahu Library, you want to make some observations about the library and the students and people that are in there. How long do your users spend at the library? Is the Wi-Fi reception good? What services are available to users in the library? Could you provide those services on your app? If so, how? Are they frustrated or happy while waiting in line, looking for books? Are all the library patrons students? How old are the students? How old are the patrons? What types of devices are being used by the students? Laptops, iOS devices, Android, other types of mobile devices like tablets. After you've made some initial observations, see if you can quickly interview someone and ask them, what are they studying? Where do they work? Ask them to describe their role professionally. Share your app idea and observe initial reactions. Do they have specific needs to meet in the context of the mobile app you hope to design? For the purposes of this class, to help you drill down your target users quickly, we'll utilize the electronic survey technique in combination with observing users and situations. Many of the questions that I just mentioned will be asked on the survey. Lastly, focus groups allows you to meet with people face to face and gather important information regarding how users of your app may or may not interact with each other. With others being in the room together in a focus group setting, you might gain insight on your app that may not have come out during a one-on-one interview, electronic surveys, or simply observing potential users in different situations. After gathering some information about your users via observations, surveys, focus groups, if you organized one, it's time to revisit your Wall O sticky notes. It's time to start asking a second set of questions and iterate your initial sticky note brainstorm. Let's learn more about what questions to ask. At this point, you've gone out and made a few observations, collected some responses from your electronic survey, and started thinking of ways to iterate your Wallow sticky notes. Take a moment to check if you want to add new functions, features, users, and answers for the 5 W's. If you've added new post-its, you want to think about what can be eliminated at this point by asking yourself all these questions for each sticky note on your wall. Does this meet the app goals? Does this serve my user's needs? Is this a function my user can't live without? Does this feature meet the function? After you've added, removed, and answered your check-in questions, it's time to cluster similar sticky notes and group them under the following: app goals, features, functions, design ideas, other or miscellaneous, and feature ideas. With evidence to support your app user, it's time to create a user persona. Your narrative should include answers to the following questions. How old are they? What is their educational background? What is their technical competency and familiarity with the technology you are designing? How much time will it take to use it? How much time will pass between use? There are some great examples presented in your ID textbook on pages 64 to 69. As I mentioned, the book has 3 great examples of user personas. However, you can build in your own creative way of presenting your user persona. Please make sure that each persona you create will have a picture, name, user category. Some examples might be student, middle school teacher, gardener, and a narrative that includes their backgrounds and needs. The user scenario describes the context in which your user persona will use your mobile app design. The user scenario is divided into 3 different scenes: before they use the app, when they are using the app, so during, and after they use the app. The before part of the user scenario describes what the user is doing or the activity they are engaged in that leads up to using your app and what specific need they are hoping to address. The during part of the user scenario describes how they meet their needs by describing the interaction they have with your mobile app design. The after part of the user reads like a happy ending where the user's needs are met and the result made their lives easier. The user flow represents a set of steps needed to complete a task by the user utilizing your mobile design. The task illustrated here represents the sequence of steps the user follows to add someone to his or her friends list, In the next slide, I will provide a key for you to use that has been translated for mobile screens. Please take the time to review this user scenario and flow laid out on pages 70 to 71 in the ID textbook. I've revised the user flow key from the ID textbook for mapping out the mobile user flows. Please note that users will walk through several screens to make decisions or get to the terminator. Please note that the user scenario and flow walks users through a part of your app in detail. Your wireframes represent the entire experience. Therefore, screen numbers or names used in wireframes and user flows should be the same so that your team or project managers are able to reference your wireframe while reviewing your user flows. I just went through a lot of information and steps. The purpose of this week's lecture was to distill down the process by which you can refine your app goals, create your user personas, user scenarios, and user flows. Remember, we're still in step number 1 of the mobile design process. I'm looking forward to reviewing each person's sticky notes brainstorm for your assignment number 5. Have a great week and aloha.